Welcome everybody to Jack Does Horror. I'm Jack, and today we are reviewing The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, a movie that inspired me so much that this whole video I'm going to take 100% serious. I also love the fact that they brilliantly lit the fuse. What do I mean by that? Well, you're going to have to wait until the end of the video to find out that terminology. Also, guys, if you guys could, and you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe because it helps support the channel. And here at Jack Does Horror, we greatly appreciate it. With all that being said, on to the reason why you clicked on the video, on to me reviewing The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. Hit the intro. Alright, so first off, I'm going to admit I felt like The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It was a really weird title. I was like, that doesn't really fit the Conjuring universe, feels very long, feels very nail on the head, just didn't feel right. And, well, once I watched the movie and got the little snippet I needed at the end on why the title was called that, well, it just made everything that much better. But we'll get to that once we get to that part of the review. Let's start out at the beginning because we have a very intense but cliche possession scene where we see Ed and Lorraine Warren with the Glatzel family and little David Glatzel being possessed, and everybody and the Warrens and the priest trying to exorcise the demon out of David. Doesn't work. Demon jumps on Ed. Ed gets a heart attack. Arn, now mind you, this guy's not even related to the Glatzel. He's going to marry Debbie Glatzel, David's older sister, but he has enough guts, enough morals, and enough just being a man that he's going to take David and he's going to do a Father Damien move and say, leave the child alone, take me instead. The demon takes Arn up on his offer. And, well, that's where I think that we're going to get kind of this, like, cliche story, which I'm like, man, is this really going to be a third movie? Is this really going to be one of those movies that it's just where everybody's going to say, well, it was the third movie, what did you expect? So I was really worried about it, but once we got to the fact that what was really starting to go on wasn't a straight up possession story, was when I started really getting my horror juices flowing. I started getting excited during this movie because I felt like, of course it's the Conjuring universe, they're going to give us something just a little bit different than the norm, and they did so. This movie definitely reminded me of the Amityville Horror in the sense of this is also based on true events. That is something that I usually don't dig, believe it or not. There's a couple movies that did it right. The Conjuring universe is one of them. Amityville Horror is another. But the majority of them, I just don't like it where I kind of know the outcome when I'm going into watching a movie. So, Arn, being possessed, ends up murdering his landlord. And Ed comes out of his heart attack. The first words he says to his wife Lorraine is, you have to get over the Glatzels. Arn's in danger. Paraphrasing there. And too late, he murdered his landlord. And now he's getting held for murder and punishable by death. So this is again where it's really intense. And this is where a whodunit begins. A mystery story starts to unravel here as Ed gets out of the hospital, obviously, because he's in the court. He hears all this stuff, and they're trying to free Arn with the first trial in the history of the United States of demonic possession is the reason why murder happened. So they go and try and find any clue they can, any evidence whatsoever, because Arn is gonna die if they don't. So this is where it gets interesting, because this isn't a straight demon story. This ends up being witchcraft, demonic, or yeah, satanic rituals, witchcraft, black magic, if you will. And that's when things got a little more scary for me, because I'm like, man, people are doing this, or a person, not just entities that are hanging around. This is actually started and done, and a gate was opened by a person or persons. And so we're going into the movie, and I'm seeing the fact that now I'm like, okay, you know, we're seeing them try and find the who did it. Meanwhile, Arn's in all kinds of trouble, to in and out possession thing. His life's on the line, all that stuff, because why? Well, there's a ritual going on, and you need a suicide and a murder and everything to complete this ritual. So then we get into the fact that just some really scary stuff happens along the way. I felt like one of the scarier scenes was when Arn did kill his landlord, but there's a lot of scary stuff that started happening to the Warren family. I will say that for a guy who doesn't particularly dig zombie movies, a zombie-esque moment happened here that was really cool. I know it was a drive a little bit more action midway through the story, and I'm fine by that if it's done right. If it's done just bluntly and it doesn't feel like it helps the story at all, but this one did. It happened in the morgue while Lorraine was trying to figure out some clues. You know, and obviously we have this Ed Warren weak heart storyline going on throughout the movie. So, yes, scary stuff happens along the way. They end up finding who is doing this to them, to not only them, but to Arn. And this is the only part that I gotta watch it again. I really do. The only part that I'm lost at is what was the particular reason why the Glatzels were picked. It felt like they were all connected through some kind of college or some kind of school or whatever. So that's about as much as I knew. They didn't really dive into the details of that. Maybe I missed it. Leave a comment below if I did so, or if you guys just have the tidbit of that story, because that would just help me understand things just a wee bit more. So yeah, all in all, they find him. Arn goes to trial, and obviously then you end the movie with some text that says that, you know, he didn't get found innocent, but at the same time he got 5 years for manslaughter. He married Debbie Glatzel. They lived happily ever after. And I'm like, okay, bravo. You know, because for me to feel like a reoccurring character is in danger with what they did to Ed Warren, just not to backtrack too much, that's pretty cool to me, man, because usually, you know, look at Sam and Dean Winchester, for example. Never felt like Supernatural was a scary show. It may have had horror elements in it, but it wasn't really a horror show to me, because I never really felt like those characters were in danger. And even though I always tell you guys that, hey, sometimes you can give people what you want after like 15 seasons or whatever, you got to give us some kind of twist and turn. I believe my opinion. Anyway, yeah, to have this Ed Warren heart, you know, because even if I wasn't afraid for the character's life, I was thinking to myself, well, this character could be a vegetable. This character could be in a wheelchair, or what, you know, for the rest of his life, you know, the rest of his existence on Earth. So it's very intense, very well done, and that leads me obviously to my horror recommendation of the day, which is The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. Why? Because, well, it was just that good. If you guys already seen it, you agree with me. If you guys haven't seen it, go watch it. It's an excellent movie. Also, just to say real quick what I mentioned at first, that snippet of why it was called The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, was pretty awesome, because, well, when they ended it with the actual clips and the audio recordings and everything, just to add that one final element of creepy, they got to show you that a person conducting the interview with the Warrens asked a pretty good question. Where do you draw the line when somebody's defense, if they murder somebody, is the devil made me do it? Excellent Excellent, excellent. Now on to the horror terminology, the Jack Does Horror terminology of this video, which is they brilliantly, you don't have to have brilliant in it, they lit the fuse. What do I mean by that? Well, let me bring up a master of horror, John Carpenter, with 3 of his movies. Okay? You have Escape from New York, you have Halloween, and The Thing. Okay? All these brilliantly lit the fuse. Escape from New York, they injected Snake Plissken with something that would kill him if he didn't return the president to the military at a certain amount of time. Snake Plissken was gonna die. It was a way for him not only to not run off and leave everybody high and dry, but as a way for the reassurance that this character, one way or another, is gonna be ended, whether he gets the job done or not. Also, let's go with Halloween. You got October 30th, where the story starts. October 31st, when we get to see that it's Halloween night. We kind of know then things are gonna happen. Funny enough, in Halloween 2, if you look, it's daytime by the time, you know, Laurie's getting put in the ambulance and all that stuff. I've always found that interesting, because technically doesn't that mean that during the whole explosion and all that stuff that was kind of November 1st? The sun doesn't just come up like that, you know what I mean? Like, there's gonna be a little bit of time there where, you know, it's past midnight, so technically it is November 1st. Not to segue too much out of that. Then lastly, my favorite horror movie of all time, The Thing. To be more exact, John Carpenter's The Thing. And when all those generators blew, you knew that there's only so much heat to go around. 3 excellent ways of laying the fuse. What I mean by that is it's that Mission Impossible theme where they light the fuse and you know by the time it ends, boom. Conjuring 3 did that. They not only made you feel like there was something like that with Ed Warren, but the main story was there's this murder trial that was happening. And if Ed and Lorraine Warren didn't figure out in the amount of time that they were allotted, Arn was going to die for doing the right thing. Brilliantly done, Conjuring 3. The devil made me do it. Whew. All right, guys, lastly, if you want to help support the channel other than the like, share, and subscribe aspect of supporting the channel, go to Apocalypse Inc. on redbubble.com, buy some merchandise. Very cool move. Another cool move is if you guys want to come hang out and play video games and stuff, we have a Discord. And also, you can see yours truly on the BleepTube channel. Links in the description below for all that. With that being said, this was reviewing The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. I'm Jack. This is Jack Does Horror. I'll see you guys all next video.